Welcome back, welcome back. Governments, of course, are all doing all they can to fight the credit crunch, bank bailouts, recovery plans. And in the case of Argentina, the government has nationalized $30 billion in private pensions. According to the Argentinian President, Cristina Kirchner, the move will be, quote, to protect our retirees and workers, unquote. But many economists and opposition politicians fear that the government's intention is the opposite, as you might find or think or suspect wherever you are in that particular country. They're trying to fill a widening hole, people feel, in government finances. So was this the right move, the wrong move, the right time? Joining me now is the former governor of the Central Bank of Argentina, Manuel Blejer. Mario, welcome. Very good to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
Where do you come down on this? Was this the right move at the right time, or the wrong time, or the wrong move at the right time? What was it?
Well, I think that you have to distinguish between the substance of the move and the timing and opportunity. On the substance, there's a lot of disagreement because these pension funds were the property of people, but at the same time, they did not really fulfill the purpose that they were initially thought about. They did not deepen the financial markets in a manner that was supposed to act, and the return the last few years has not been extremely good. So there is a discussion about if they were working right or not. Leaving this aside, there's a problem of timing, and at a time of large uncertainty in the world, uncertainty in Argentina, I think that was not a proper measure to be taken because it increased uncertainty about rules of the game, and increased uncertainty about the property rights. So I think that the timing was not appropriate, and the manner that was done was a little bit, I would say, hasty. It was done in a manner that made people confused about what the government intend to do.
And you have the situation where, presumably, with the general world economic situation, a lot of people, although it's now within the government say we've got your interests in mind, must be very insecure about whether their money is still safe from a government raid.
Yes, people feel a little confused about this issue, and but to say the truth, the situation in Argentina in terms of confidence has been eroded for a long time, and this is one more grain. What the government should do now is really try to take some measures that will solidify confidence, and well, leave this thing aside and basically take some measures that will calm down because we have a crisis of confidence in the whole world, and in Argentina, doing this step has added, some oil to the fire, and I think that the proper thing to do is to calm down the markets at this point.
Did you have any of these pensions yourself that they've taken over?
Not really, actually.
Oh, lucky you! Yes.
No, not really. So I'm not talking as an interested party here, but I think that a lot of people feel that they have saved. And that these savings now have been taken over, and there's uncertainty about it.
And what about the uncertainty in the world? From your point of view, your unique point of view in Argentina and so on, is this as worrying a time as some say, or as others say? Well, the British Chancellor of the Exchequer said the other day that by the middle of next year things would be looking brighter and so on. Is that true?
No, I think that the credit crisis, the financial crisis is starting little by little to come into place. I mean, there is a little bit of advance and progress and resolution to the pure crisis in the credit market. However, in the real world economy, in the real activity, the recession, this is only starting. And the uncertainty now is about how long and how deep the recession is going to be in England and in the UK, in the US, in Europe. My take is that the governments finally late, but finally are deciding step by step to take every single measure necessary to make this crisis short and shallow. But in any event, no, we are not going to see a recovery before the middle of next year in the advanced countries. The emerging markets like Brazil or Argentina or Eastern Europe, I think that they're going, or Asia of course, are going to survive better. And I don't think they will come into a recession. They will grow less, but I don't think there will be a recession in Asia and Latin America. But in the central countries, I think that despite the fact that the credit problem is slowly being resolved, the real activity is going to suffer in the next two quarters, the next half of a year. This is an optimistic view, I want just to say, because a lot of my colleagues believe that the recession may be deeper and longer. But I am pretty confident that the new government in America is going to do everything it takes to shorten the period of the recession.
And what's more, you've covered there around the world, you've covered one way and another almost all of the 75 countries that are watching this program at the moment. Mario, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tzipi Livni, Israel's foreign minister, has called on the caretaker Prime Minister Ehud Olmert to resign. Olmert is alleged to be involved in a number of corruption scandals and now faces further criminal investigation. With Israel's political future uncertain, progress in the peace process has stalled. I'm joined now from Jerusalem by Dore Gold, former Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, to find out what the future holds for Mr. Olmert, Mrs. Livni, for Mr. Gold himself, and the peace process. Welcome, Dore. We're delighted to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be with you, David.
Thank you very much indeed. How will this dramatic plea from Mrs. Livni to Mr. Olmert play itself out, and how significant is it, do you think?
Well, this is a political season where everybody is maneuvering from the standpoint of political interest. We have Israeli elections on February 10th. As far as Prime Minister Olmert's fate, it will really depend on the recommendations of our Attorney General, Meni Mazuz. He would probably make a recommendation that Mr. Olmert needs to remove himself from office should an actual indictment from his office be handed down.
I see. So that would be the crunch point, as it were. And
yes, in fact,
after you.
Yes, in fact, Mr. Olmert has said that he would resign should he be indicted. So we don't have that definite move as of yet. When it comes, we'll see what the recommendation of the Attorney General will be.
In fact, would it help Mrs. Livni in the election, do you think, to have had a longer spell in the position of Prime Minister-elect, or whatever one calls it? Would that help her, do you think, against her opposition, against the opponents, Benjamin Netanyahu and so on, or is it not politically potent for her?
Well, the general observation of political observers in Israel is that Ms. Livni is trailing in the polls. Benjamin Netanyahu, the former prime minister, is leading today. Should she run against him February 10th as Prime Minister Livni, as opposed to Foreign Minister Livni, that might give her a few points.
There is a sort of implication sometimes in things people say about the new regime in Washington, that basically it'll be just a chance of picking up the idea for a two-state solution, and that's really just a matter of time, and that will all work itself out, and there will be success and peace and negotiations based on this two-state concept. On the other hand, there's the point of view which says there are 6 major issues that's got to be solved, and none of them have made much progress at all, and the two-state idea, it's a good idea or whatever, but that doesn't solve the problem of Israel's security and all the other points. Where do you stand in that?
Well, I just look at what we've gone through since 1993, when the Oslo agreements were signed on the White House lawn under the auspices of President Clinton. We have now had 2 American presidents, 6 Israeli prime ministers, 2 heads of the Palestinian Authority, Yasser Arafat and Mahmoud Abbas, and nobody has reached an agreement. We've had the Oslo agreements. We had Israel's unilateral disengagement from Gaza. We've had Annapolis. And we are no closer to an agreement today than we were back in 1993. So maybe we should take a pause and think about why it hasn't worked. Of course, the temptation will be to just say, let's put the peace process back on track and pick up where we left off. But maybe we're going to be banging square pegs into round holes. So I think we need to think about why it hasn't worked and what we have to do to make it work.
And which do you think of the major issues, Jerusalem, borders, refugees, settlements, security arrangements, water, which is the most difficult, or are they all equally difficult?
They're all equally difficult. You know, there was a myth generated after Camp David in 2000 when Israel and the Palestinians met in Taba, Egypt, that they were so close to an agreement, just a hair's breadth away, and For some reason, an agreement couldn't be concluded. Miguel Moratinos, who represented the European Union at those talks in Taba, later wrote a summary of the talks. And, he had no particular position, pro-Israel, pro-Palestinian. His objective analysis was that the Israelis and the Palestinians were wide apart on all of the major issues that you mentioned. So I think we have to take that into account. Is this a conflict with bridgeable differences, or is this a conflict presently with unbridgeable differences?
That's the basic question. Thank you very much indeed, Dore, for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you again. Thank you very much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
Well, Dore Gold there. Let's turn now to Manuel Hassassian, who is the Palestinians' ambassador here in London. Welcome. What's your first reaction watching those words by Dore Gold?
Well, I think Dore Gold gave a precise account and statements about the Israeli politics. And I think he was very right in his analysis that if Tzipi Livni, if Prime Minister Olmert gets indicted and she has the chance to become Prime Minister only for a short period of time, her chances of being, more popular in the upcoming elections on February 10 in Israel would be much stronger than running as a foreign minister. I think I do agree with Dore Gold on that particular analysis, but I don't expect, if Benjamin Netanyahu wins the elections, I think, we go back to square one, we go back to 1996, as far as we Palestinians are concerned.
And in terms of that, Dore Gold, though, is very pessimistic about the fact that the idea of a two-state solution ignores all those 6 other major categories that have not been negotiated yet, that it's more difficult, he's saying, than people give credit for. Is that right?
Well, let me say, Sir David, I have been involved in almost 52 second-track negotiations, and I have dealt with the 6 issues along with our partners, the Israelis. We have solutions to all these 6 issues. What we lack in this process, actually, is the political will. Israel has always used the Palestinians in one way or another and used their internal politicking in stalling the peace process. Now, everybody knows exactly what the solutions are, and the two-state solution is highly accepted by the Palestinians. We made a strategic decision back in 1988, and we have signed an agreement in 1993 for a two-state solution. What we see on the ground today, Sir David, is the fact that Israel is changing the facts. With the creeping annexation, with the building of settlements and the wall, it is aborting the two-state solution. Then what will be the other options left for the Palestinians? The other option is very clear. It's a one-state solution. But this is not the official position of the PLO, which still, along with 70% of the Palestinians today, opt for a two-state solution with Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza, with secured borders with Israel, 1967, and let's clinch a deal. We have been asking that for so many years now.
And one last question. In terms of the situation as it stands at the moment, the other thing a two-state solution needs is a reconciliation between the PLO and Hamas. Is there any likelihood of that?
Yes, sir. It is. I think, there will be, hopefully, very soon, a breakthrough in terms of national reconciliation. We do believe that as Palestinians, to be strong in negotiations, we should have national unity. And I believe that a consensus government is the only way out, basically, to come out of this mess of the internal divisions, which is having a negative impact on the Palestinians. I believe that if we come up with a breakthrough as far as that is concerned, all we need from the international community is to support a consensus government, not to ban it as they did when we had the Mecca Agreement, where Fatah, Hamas, and the authority were united, and still the ban was imposed on that government.
Thank you very much. As ever,
Thank
it's
you,
always
Sir
a
David.
pleasure to talk to you, Manuel.
It's always
Thank you
pleasure.
very much. There are 2 differing points of view, but not that far apart, at least today. Anyway, things are looking not entirely bleak there. That's all for this week, so do join us again, same time next week, for another edition of, yes, you guessed it, Frost Over the World.